When I was a kid, playing video games was the single greatest joy in my life. Every new game was an entirely new adventure, and everything felt fresh and novel. Going from Super Mario Bros. And Contra to The Lion King and Mortal Kombat to later playing Command & Conquer Red Alert and Half-Life, life really did feel like an epic journey, certainly when it came to gaming. And for the longest time in my life, this was my experience with games. That is, until everything changed forever. The gaming world that exists today is by no means the one I experienced growing up. Now everything requires an internet connection, I download my games digitally, and I basically have zero physical copies of games, even if they're titles I really love. And I have to admit, a lot of the stuff that comes out these days is really awful. I mean, I'm still trying to process The Lord of the Rings Gollum. The game is so terrible it actually feels like a portent of things to come, because if that's the worst thing that's been made so far, I shudder to think about what's on the horizon for all of us. There's just no denying it. Gaming isn't fun anymore, and I think there are a whole lot of reasons for this. That said, I believe there is an overarching element that has brought us here. So let's dig in a little deeper and find out why all the fun has been sucked out of the bones of the modern gaming world. Let's begin by first considering how games are marketed, developed, and delivered. So in the world of AAA games, there's a constant drive to build games that are bigger and better than everything that's come before in pretty much every way. To be fair, this is seriously challenging because a lot of what has been created in the past is already nothing short of mind-blowing, but the constant need to push the envelope and bring gamers more immersive titles is kind of insane and, in many ways, totally unsustainable. In summary, this is what happens. Developers and publishers overpromise and underdeliver, almost every single time. Yes indeed. If there's anything that drains the fun out of any experience, it's that feeling of bitter disappointment. And in the world of gaming, disappointment is the gift that keeps on giving. Here's a simplified overview of how the entire process works from start to finish. Step 1. Announce game. Generally speaking, when new games are announced, they're usually accompanied by an announcement trailer, which these days is just some kind of cinematic that lasts about a minute or so and has no actual gameplay. In addition, no release date is provided, or a very vague one may appear at the end. How do gamers react in most cases? Usually it's a mix of skepticism, cautious optimism, and even outright hostility. This is because gamers have been burned not just once or twice, but many times before. You want to trust that things will go well and the game will be amazing, but this is rarely the case. And even then, a lot of games that get announced just invite criticism and ire since, like with The Lord of the Rings Gollum, nobody asked for the damn thing. In any case, as a developer, you have to promise everyone that the game will be unlike anything they've experienced before, and that they will literally be able to do like anything in it. Overpromise like your life and career depends on it. Step 2. Nothingness. Gotta have this step. You announced your game, but now you have to make sure you don't mention anything about it for months, maybe even years, which is way edgier. Post a garbage update on your Twitter maybe, or give an update on Steam, I guess. Announce that you're going to make an announcement. Then the announcement is just something vague or unrelated to the game in question. Then disappear again. Let everyone almost forget about the game. That's just the way you have to do this, people. Step 3. The gameplay trailer. Months or years after the initial announcement, finally drop a trailer that's mostly a cinematic and includes some pre-alpha gameplay that looks unrefined and dull. Have gamers roll their eyes in almost perfect unison as they reply with things like, "This will be one of the games of the year," and "Cool, see you guys again in 2 more years." Skepticism around your title increases, even if interest is somewhat piqued. Also be sure to give a more concrete release date just so that you can renege on this in the next step. Step 4. Delay the game's release. Are you even a real modern game developer if you don't push back your game's release date? Ensure that you post an update explaining that the release of a game is pushed back by a few months or even a year because you're wanting to add more features to really pack in content for gamers, blah blah blah. Whatever, does the reason even matter? Just delay the release. Let gamers enjoy that delicious disappointment you've prepared for them as they're compelled to once again wait for ages until they get to play the game you've made. See the heads of thousands or millions of gamers shaking their heads and facepalming in utter frustration because things are playing out again as they always do. Step 5. More delays. Why have one delay when you can have 2 or 3? Just keep pushing that release date back. Will you ever bring the game out? Maybe yes, maybe no. Just play with the emotions of people and provide no certainty whatsoever. Let your fan base emotionally flatline so that most completely give up on what you're promising, and for those that remain, hit them with that final step. Step 6. Release your game. Finally release your game after years in development. Make sure there's no optimization. Make sure it's always online. Have a million bugs in it. Charge a premium. Deliver something that is completely derivative and devoid of personality despite all the work that's gone into it. Watch the negative reviews pour in. Maybe release a patch or something a month or 2 later. Maybe things get better, maybe they don't. Make your money, have everyone forget about your game, wait a while, and then go back to step 1. Lather, rinse, repeat. I know this isn't how it goes for every single game, but increasingly this seems to be the general path developers are taking when it comes to games. And really, it's super disheartening and becoming all too commonplace. I know the steps I outlined are an oversimplification, but if you look at releases like Redfall, The Lord of the Rings Gollum, and the Grey Hill Incident, the proof is in the pudding. And even if games aren't outright bad, many of them just end up being horribly mediocre and boring, which is without a doubt a major bummer. I do believe that game development is getting more difficult and expensive, especially in the realm of AAA games, but still, there's no doubt that the whole process from announcement to delivery could be better managed and that the end product could be way better if attention is actually given to what gamers want to experience. And that's what it used to be. Back in the day, if a game was bad, people would soon find out, and they would avoid it like the plague. Now with pre-orders, a lot of people end up gambling on a release and losing out big time. Sure, you can argue it's on them, but still, the whole practice feels predatory to me and is just unfair to those gamers who trust developers and publishers even when they have more than enough reason not to. In short, I think one of the biggest reasons why gaming isn't fun anymore is because the attitude towards game development and distribution has fundamentally shifted. In most cases, it seems like release now, fix later is the general strategy. However, in numerous others, the strategy is undeniably release now, never fix it. In essence, with the whole early access approach in pre-orders, it seems like many developers have just gotten lazy and will address certain issues when and if it suits them. And let's be real, the monetization in a bunch of games like Overwatch 2, Roblox, and Diablo Immortal is downright shameful and predatory. Season passes, loot boxes, and the whole pay-to-win thing make a lot of the games that are out there really awful for the vast majority of people. It's abundantly clear that priorities have shifted from a gamers first to a profit first approach, and that's killing innovation and ruining the experiences of gamers all over the world. And then there's also the overall cost of gaming these days, which means a lot of people are just completely left out because they don't have the financial means to participate. I understand that game consoles are way more performant and streamlined these days, but the cost of a PS5 or Xbox Series X or S is just way out of range for many gamers. And don't even get me started on PCs. Even if you have the latest gear and spend a fortune on a great rig, you can still experience performance issues, game crashes, and a host of other problems that just messes up the experience for you. It isn't even remotely fun. It's expensive, tedious, time-consuming, and ultimately not worth the effort for a whole lot of gamers. And who can even blame them? The reality is that gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry that will only continue to grow over time. And this might sound cynical, but generally speaking, where there's money, there's corruption. And where there's a lot of money, there's a lot of corruption. What I'm saying is, don't expect the situation to get any better, especially if people keep accepting poorly made games and predatory practices. Yes, you may disapprove of all this, but even if you grudgingly support something, you are part of the problem. And I know that sucks to hear. What can I say? If companies keep making money and seeing that number on their bottom line getting bigger, they're not going to change their ways. Heck, if anything, they're just going to double down and do it even more. Gamers have to hold developers and publishers to account, or every last bit of fun in the world of gaming will be depleted before we even know it. Gaming isn't fun anymore, and ultimately, we have to take accountability for the role we have played in allowing this reality to come to pass. And so ends today's video, friends. Do you agree with what we've said here? And are there any other reasons why gaming isn't fun anymore that we may have overlooked? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily gaming, VR, and tech content. From me and the crew, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later!